there's a lot of things that are delicious. Mostly this Superman movie. I'm gonna
Yes,
call it delicious. It
it
was a
was.
yummy treat that I got to eat because it was just full. It was kind of like dessert, right? It's
Mm.
fun and flashy and fills you up, and then you just want more. So that's that's what this movie is. It is a tasty dessert, and it was delicious.
Well said.
Thank you. I came up with that right now on the spot. Just necessity,
100%
segue
accurate.
necessity. Yep. There you
Yes.
go. Yeah, since I'll start since I start this rolling. I loved it. I loved Superman before we get into the spoilerness of it. We all saw it early. Vactor got to see it twice already, once for a press screening and then once for the Amazon Prime Day members or the Amazon member viewing, and that's how Frank and I saw it early. Same deal. I loved it. There are things about it that I don't love, which I think are important to say. I think that the things that I don't love don't really matter to me in the grand scheme of what I did love about the movie, which was 99% of it. So much like the thesis of the movie is about kindness and just loving your neighbor a little bit more than and all life is precious and all that stuff. I'm going to extend that out into the movie and say that even though this film is imperfect in some ways, I'm still going to love it, much like people are imperfect and I still love them.
Well
Right?
said. I
Thank
like
you.
that. I
Thanks.
like that. I love a Superman take where he does the right thing just cuz it's the right thing. Like nothing else needed. Like that is enough, you know? And like that is enough, and that made me very very happy throughout the movie. Like gosh, so many times, so many things that just made me smile, and I walked out of there with a smile on my face. Just feeling good, feeling like honestly feeling that like that movie theater excitement, like that sort of like buzzing from a good movie. Like I left buzzing from a good movie, one that I had been very 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 hotly anticipating, and felt like it paid off. And yes, I agree, there's things I would have done differently too, but yeah, it's not things that really matter in the grand scheme. I'm very very happy. What about you, Vector?
I echo both your sentiments. It left me feeling joy when I walked out of the theater, and I didn't think about this. I hadn't thought about it for years now. This is the feeling that I wanted when I was walking out of Superman Returns. And I remember gathering a group of friends and saying, "We're gotta see this new Superman movie. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome." And walking out of the theater, and I almost felt like it was like a Phantom Menace type of situation where I was like, I wanted to like Superman Returns a lot more, and I wanted to be like, look, this is what Superman can be. This is great, right? And then as I slowly came down out of the experience, I was like, that was not what I wanted it to be. And Man of Steel also, I had a similar vibe. This one, when I came out, I said, this is what Superman should be. And also, this is what a comic book should be. And I love that James Gunn said this is the most comic book movie he's ever made. It
I agree with
just,
him.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not ashamed of being silly. It's not ashamed of being comic booky. And that's what I love about this movie in particular. And to go off of what Tim Tangent said, I think the things that I don't like about the movie are a lot more what I feel like what I want other people to enjoy almost, because I feel like this movie 100% is made for us as DC fans, as
mm,
Superman fans. We already got who Superman is, who Lex Luthor is, who Lois Lane is. So we have that in our minds. I feel like someone who is new, someone who doesn't know who Superman is, or who's asking me, hey, why is Superman cool? I don't think this movie gives that to them. I don't think it's like
I
almost
disagree.
like the
Yeah. I will let you finish, but I disagree with that.
I almost feel like the way that I could give the Dark Knight to somebody and say, this is, if you don't like
yes.
Batman, you can still like the Dark Knight. I feel like with this movie, if you're already not a Superman fan, I feel like people are going to come out of it and say, oh, well, that was just, it was corny, it was campy, all those the things that we've heard. And it wasn't for me. It didn't teach me why I
Mm,
should like Superman. And I feel like James Gunn was like, he was almost like, yeah, I don't care about those people. I care about the true fans like us.
interesting. Yeah, I have a slightly different point of view too, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I disagree with that a little bit. It's just in that if somebody's walking away from the movie and they're like, it was corny, it was silly, this, then they're gonna walk away from every movie that's corny or silly, Superman or not Superman, and say this isn't for me, right? So that's not really a Superman issue. That's a genre tone issue for them. They're not interested in campy and silly things, which is fine. That's totally on them. But that's not necessarily directly related to Superman. But I do think this movie pretty explicitly says that like you should care about Superman because Superman is actually just like you. Superman wakes up every day and makes mistakes. And those mistakes, because of his superpowers, are consequently huger when he does actually make a mistake. There are bigger consequences for those things than like for you like forgetting to, I don't know, lower the
Bring
heat
the
in your
milk
house
home.
to
Yeah.
62
Right.
at night or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's Superman doesn't do that. Like the polar ice caps melt or something like that, so but it's all the same struggle. And I think at the end of the day, if people aren't really interested in relating to that character, then they're just not interested in relating to any character that's kind of like that. Because it's the same struggle that Peter Parker has. It's the same struggle that Batman has, or Captain Atom, or Wonder Woman, or the X-Men in their entirety, whatever. They make mistakes, and they have to deal with the consequences of those actions, and that's what Superman. That's what the story is about. It's also about it was called Superman Legacy. It's about accepting the legacy of your past and what you're leaving for the future, and like what you think your influences are and how they shape you and what you do with them and all that. We'll talk about that more in spoilers, but I think those are just very general themes that you don't really actually need Superman for, which was like the strength of The Dark Knight, right? It was like you can watch it without it being a Batman movie, but it still got all the cool Batman things in it. And that one, and to me, this is basically the same, except that instead of it being deadly serious, it's fun. So I
Sure.
would never call The Dark Knight fun. It's good, but it's not fun. Yeah. Frank.
Yeah, I agree with some of that. The way I think of it is like yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, he definitely explicitly said some of those things, but also what the movie was trying to say was like when everyone is sort of morally gray, being morally upright is kind of punk rock. Like
Yeah.
is kind of the going against the grain.
Yeah.
And
Which I
that's
love.
yeah.
I love that.
I liked that a lot. And I also felt like there's two ways to address the fan that doesn't like Superman, that thinks Superman is cheesy, corny, whatever. There's two ways. There's, yeah, you're right, he is, but like I'm gonna make a movie where he's where that tries to fix that. Or you could say, no, here's what I love about the character. Like, let me show you from the point of view of somebody who really loves and has affection and passion for the character. Let me show you what there is to love about it. And let me like not actually change your mind, but like let me show you the things that there are to like
Yes.
that maybe outweigh the fact like, okay, yeah, it is, there are things that are corny, but isn't there something profound here? And I think James Gunn did that very, very well. He did. You can tell this is made by somebody who loves this world and these characters. I think it seemed pretty plain to me that he was somebody who loved, that is a Superman fan, died in the
Arguably
wool.
more than a Marvel fan. Like if you were really
Yeah.
like
Yes.
the respect he had for the characters who they are at their original, like as opposed to like how can I mold them, adapt them to my needs.
Yes.
I watched a movie there, everyone was like clearly who they were supposed to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. It was just, yeah, he nailed, like, it really was his most comic book movie. Like, it really felt like reading the pages of a comic. There were those moments where I was like, I was thinking about like, that we're in an action sequence now. This is kind of a lot. Is this like, and then I'm like, this is exactly what a comic would look like. This is exactly what, like, there would be the whole section in the middle that like maybe goes on a little too long for my taste or whatever, but like, that's what a comic book feels like. I caught myself being like, oh, I caught myself being critical and realizing the thing I was criticizing was something that was made it a comic book movie. And every time I thought that, I was like, that's what it should be. That is it. It is the movie that Vactor in your spoiler free review on this Comic Cooks YouTube channel, you said that it's not a perfect Superman movie, but it's the movie that we needed in 2025, and I felt that so hard. I think that is so right.
And that's why I love that he said, like, I feel like his thesis was the humanity, the heart of Superman, and that Superman is the counterculture now. Whereas before, that was kind of the norm. Like all superheroes were kind of like that, and he was the blueprint. But it's gotten to the point now where we have Omni Man and Homelander and all these other dark Supermans now in 2025 where those are considered like the cool, people that we're looking up to. And it's like, wait a minute. No, Superman he was the blueprint. He was the one that started everything. And he's the counterculture now. It's like completely flipped. And I like that James Gunn embraced that. And he's like, yes, this is cool. It is cool to like the Mighty Crab Joys. It's cool to drink milk and eat cereal. And it's funny because I was eating Fruity Pebbles and cereal the other day for dinner, and my wife, like, the scene when he's making Lois, the
You
guy
love
too, the
breakfast
guy
for dinner.
Gardner too. Yes, that was my wife was like, hey, that's you. So I think those things also hit me in my own personal take on Superman. And this is a Superman that I could see myself being proud to hand to my son and say, look, this is Superman. The same way I would be before this, it would have been Christopher Reeve, and that would be the one that I would try to give to my son. Henry Cavill, as good a performance as he gave, he just was never given the material to be this authentic Superman. And I was thinking about it as I was walking out the second time. What if he was in this movie? What if Henry Cavill was cast with this script, with this story? I think he would have done a great job regardless, because I just think he's a good actor. But this Superman is the one that I want to be able to pass down to my son and to say, this is what I love about Superman. Same thing with, like, I feel like with Clark in Smallville, that was the same deal. I could give it to my son and say, this is who I would look up to if I were you.
Yep, I
So true.
completely agree with that. I said my I was gonna say my sister loves Superman, which she does, which is great. But my daughter loves a Superman, so right now she's on a Poison Ivy kick. She loves Batman Brave and the Bold, and we
Nice.
we got to a Poison Ivy cold open, and she was like, "Who is that guy?" So, like, yeah, and she said, I said, I saw the new Superman movie last night. That's why I wasn't home for bedtime, and she's like, can I see it? And so I had that in my mind while I was watching the movie. And I said, no, there are a couple things in this movie that I definitely don't want you to see. You're
Hmm.
too young for
Hmm.
some things. Are they a little scary? I said, not scary, just meant for an older kid. And she said, okay. I said, but there are some things in this movie that you would love, and I would be happy to show you some of those things. And she was like, okay, great. Yeah. And so, but I can't do that with some other Superman movies. Like,
Yeah.
and not even just Henry Cavill's movies. I really can't even do that with Brandon Routh. Like, because there's really nothing in there that is kid worthy. A lot of it is heady conversation between
Yeah.
adults that relies on previous context or just a her understanding of relationships.
Hmm.
And that's it. That's the movie. And so I was just really thrilled to be like, wow, in a couple of years, I'm going to get to introduce her to somebody who is probably going to be her Superman.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he should be, because he was just wonderful. I found everybody wonderful. I didn't think there was
The
I didn't
casting
really
was great.
see like a misstep really anywhere, small or big role. But David Corenswet was particularly good. What a hard role this is to play, because you have to make earnestness earnest. You have to make goodness shine through. You have to be powerful but not scary. You have to It's just there's a lot going on, and he carries it effortlessly, and also like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. It's really, really good performance.
Yeah.
Thrilled. Yeah, totally
Yeah.
thrilled.
He was phenomenal. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought Rachel Brosnahan was the other one that I was really looking forward to, and I just thought she absolutely owned Lois. I think she really got it. I think she really got it, and I think there were some things that I enjoyed. There was some Lois homage wardrobe that went on there as well, which was fun. A couple things actually. There was just a lot to love in this movie, but yeah, the casting was just like, I mean, there was nobody who I felt like was miscast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
from
thinking
top to
Joker.
bottom.
Oh, I was go ahead, Vector. Go ahead.
I was gonna say top to bottom, everybody was fantastic. I did not think there was a weak link. It was just some characters didn't have as much to do or as much screen time, but every actor that was cast, they all filled their
Mhm.
role. They all played their part.
Listen, I got more of Steve Lombard than I ever hoped I would get in a Superman movie. Multiple scenes of Steve being Steve. I just was so happy. I felt bad for Ron Troop, who had nothing to do
Didn't get a
and didn't
Yeah,
single
say
word to
yeah,
not a
say.
single line
I
anywhere
was
in
Come
sad.
there. I thought
on.
that was I wanted a little bit more Perry, but I also think that like it left me wanting more instead of saying, is this gonna be over soon? Like, are we done with this
Yeah.
part yet? Or am I ready to move on? Like, I really wanted, or the fact that they were actually memorable because we've seen some members of the like we've seen Steve Lombard before. Like he was in Man of Steel, and I'm pretty sure BVS for a hot second, but maybe not. I think maybe just Man of Steel. And like that was a thing that happened, like but he's like a weirdly memorable character with his mustache and but his in his Superman pin that he's like, "Woo," like
Yeah.
there's some quality stuff in there. I do agree that Lois was not necessarily shortchanged a little bit. I've heard that in some places that like she's not given enough to do, which I actually disagree with. She does a lot and
Hmm.
she like holds her own in it. But I think the news side of Lois it gets dropped in favor of maybe the more action oriented Lois in some way.
Mm.
But even that, I don't like my thing when it comes down to it, it's a 2-hour movie and it's called Superman. Like, so as a first outing for a new universe for everything, you have to focus on your main character. And it is for an audience that has to be reintroduced to Superman and why you should care about the Superman. And everybody else supports that. Doesn't matter who they are, how much you love the character. That's what their job is. And
Hmm.
everybody understood that assignment really well.
Yeah.
So thrilled.
And you compare that to, let's say, Iron Man 1, where that had to be the introduction to an entire universe. Now, I don't think they knew at the time how much was riding on Iron Man, but this Superman, the weight of the DC universe is on this movie. And let's say if this flopped, that I don't know how far they would go. Like the Supergirl movie's already pretty much done, but how far would they go if this Superman flops? I think the weight would just be too much for them to try to push through that. But it's definitely not going to flop. This movie is going to do very well. I think audiences are already, critics are already loving it, and they did a great job setting up this DC universe. What I loved was the opening title card. I don't even know what to call it, but the three
Opening
decades,
text.
Yes.
yeah, that text of
Yes.
the 333 and telling you where that's at gave you so much information and so much context for what is going on in the DC universe, where everybody is at, how long Superman has been Superman. And I felt like this was a great foundation for whatever's going to come next. Just like what Tangent said, I felt when I left this movie, I want more. I could have had another hour of this movie and been satisfied myself personally, and you would have gotten a little bit more time to breathe for a lot of those other characters and a lot more stuff for them to do. But then also setting, like, it's such a hard task of, okay, it has to be a Superman movie, it has to be the setup and the foundation for the DC universe, and then also we want to make the Justice Gang interesting enough that people will be like, "Oh, I want to see what they would do in another thing." There were so many things that this movie has to do, and that's why I also feel like in trying to satisfy all those things, that is another reason why it doesn't quite align perfectly for me like The Dark Knight does. Like I always go back to The Dark Knight, and even Iron Man 1 to me is like a perfect movie. And so those things, I think because it was trying to do so many things, it just doesn't align fully. But then again, like I said, I feel like a lot of the things that I don't like about the movie are me trying to look at it as a non-DC fan, because
Mm.
whenever I think about it as a DC fan, it gave me everything I wanted. But then if I try to put on my, I don't know, like my coworker's hat of, oh, this is just Joe Q Public going to the movies, would he be happy with these story beats? Would he be happy with this arc for Superman? Like those are the things that in my mind I'm like trying to wrestle with my DC fandom and then me as a movie fan. Those two
Mm.
things.
Well, I will say so. Like, obviously, we saw it early, and so everybody who's posted about it has also started a little early. Arguably, more of a superhero fan or super, or and so
It's a self-selecting audience who's going to try to go to see it early, right?
right, and
Right.
and so, however, I was stopped by two kids on my way out of the theater because the IMAX I went to was in a mall, and so I was in the walking out, and you have to pass through the food court, and two kids stopped me, and they were like, "Hey, was it good?" Because I'm like, I was wearing this Superman shirt that I'm wearing now. Obviously, I went to the movie, and so I stopped and talked to them. And I said, "Oh yeah, it was great. It was really fun. Like, definitely worth your time." And they're like, "Oh, cool. Is there another showing? Like, can we go now?" And I said, "Oh no, yeah, you gotta wait. It was this." and they were like legitimately like, I really wanted to like experience a good thing, which was great. I loved that because they were two people, two teenagers who were kind of riding on the fence. They were like, could be good, could be bad. I'm going to ask this random person whether whether it was good or not. But I also think like not every critic is a DC fan the way that we are. That's where I'm going to go back and land, where they like the majority of critics really did like the movie. Some have a passing knowledge of what's happening. Some have no knowledge. Most have no idea who Metamorpho is, or Hawkgirl, or Guy Gardner, or Mr. Terrific, or like they just don't. And so I think that that's actually more of a tell for a regular audience member is weirdly a critic in this case, because they're not comic fans, they're just movie fans, and people who go to the movies like movies. So like that's actually a better tell than anything.
Anecdotally, and tell me if you guys had the same experience, this was the most packed I've seen a theater in a long time. And I've been going to this same theater since I've lived in this area, about 3 years. Gone to tons of movies there. Never before have I not been able to get a parking spot. I had to drive around and get a parking spot, to the point where I was nervous I was going to miss the beginning. I saw more kids getting dropped off at the movies to go see it, like teenagers, than I've seen in a long time.
Excellent.
That
Again,
makes
this
me
is for
feel
the
good.
prime screening. This is people who are going out of their way to see it, like us, who are excited to see it. So there is that. But like enough people wanted to go to this thing on a Tuesday night that the theater, I couldn't get it. Every single parking spot was taken, and I had to park somewhere else. I've never seen that at that place before. It's one anecdote. It's one data point. But like if that's happening anywhere else, like there could be some real momentum behind this one.
Yep. No, I hope so, because it's fun. Fun movies don't always mean that they do well, but a good word of mouth goes a long way. And truthfully, the movie is not it's dense if you need to know all the details, but
Yeah.
you don't watch like the rationale is like you don't watch every movie going, "Oh, what's that guy's story?
Yeah. No. Right.
What's
Right.
that guy's story?" You just let it wash over you that these things are happening. And truthfully, I think the MCU trained people to just get used to seeing random superheroes at random times. Like people who never saw any of the first phase went to Avengers. They caught up just fine.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
they went backwards. Or people were like, oh man, everybody's going to Infinity War. I should go see that, where every superhero and not a single backstory is in there at all. Like, also worth noting. And so I don't know. I don't think that like people seeing Metamorpho and going, man, what's his story? Like, why is he like that? Like, who cares? He is. Darth Vader showed up in his suit and nobody's like, why is that guy like that?
Right.
He just is,
He just
because this
is.
is the world and because the world is so obviously not ours, it suspends your disbelief that you don't actually have to ask those questions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
why Hawkgirl has wings.
Yes.
It just doesn't.
Right. And that's what I think also James Gunn is trying to be the postmodern superhero take where not everything gets an origin story anymore. We all
Yeah.
grew up in the time where everything got their origin movie, everyone and I'm coming from the standpoint of I love origin movies. Like a lot of times I would like the origin movies more than the sequels. I would be the opposite of people were like, "Oh no, we like the sequel better because it got all that origin stuff out of the way." And I'm like, "I love watching Peter Parker get his powers. I love seeing those things." But I think the way that we're going to get stuff now is going to be like the way that he did Superman's origin of, all right, I'm going to assume you already know who Lex Luthor is, who Lois Lane is, why they have a relationship, that he told his identity to the Justice Gang. Like you don't get those stories. I think that's how it's going to be moving forward. Like I said, from the standpoint of somebody who loves origin stories, I like it and I don't like it. It's like I kind of want the origin story just because I'm the type of guy that give me more, more, more. Like give me 3 movies in a year, give me 3 TV shows where I'm hearing a lot of people like, no, we don't want that much. So that's just take that with a grain of salt. But I think we are from this point on going to get these movies without origin stories anymore, especially the big superheroes.
Yeah. I mean, the opening reminded me very much of the opening of Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, where he just does the 4 panel, like the origin story in one page. Obviously it didn't do exactly that, but it reminded me of just sort of like, the basics, like let's
Yeah,
just get into the story.
right.
And I really liked that.
Yeah, and I think of it more like this is a comic book brought to life in a lot of ways. And so like and I think of it like when somebody says like, "Oh, can you recommend a good Superman comic? Anybody ever hand them Action Comics #1 and say,
Right.
"Hey, chum, here you go. Start from the beginning." You're right. There you go. You're ready to start. Obviously, that's not, that's not the case. That's not what we do. We say like, "Oh, you know any good Batman stories?" You're like, yeah, here's Batman Long Halloween, or here's Batman Year One, or Dark Knight Returns, or whatever." And like, you just catch up. You doesn't matter if the person knows the origin story or not. In fact, most of the case, it really doesn't. The origin matters, obviously, why they do what they do. But for a general audience member, like, I don't need to know why Maverick in Top Gun joined the Air Force or the Navy, whatever he's in. I can't remember the Navy. Yeah, so, like, it doesn't really matter that much. The fact is that he's in it, and that's what he does. You don't watch, I don't know, like a cop movie and go, "Oh, I wonder why he became a police officer." They just are. Like,
Yeah.
it's what
Well,
they
that
do.
yeah, and that actually goes back to something that I was thinking about. Man, this is like 2009, I think, where I don't even remember what movie it was, but I came out of the movie and I was like, "You know what? I don't need to know every moment of a character's life from the time they are born to the time they die. Show me the good parts. Show me the parts that matter and are relevant to the story." And that's, I think, exactly what you're saying.
Otherwise,
Show
you get
us the good.
A Charles Dickens novel, and you're just
Yeah.
there forever.
That's what movies are. One of the magical things about movies is they can take the boring stuff out of our lives and just show us the highlight reels, show us the good times and the actual memorable moments. Speaking of memorable moments, for me, I want to ask you two, did you have kind of a bad taste in your mouth when Hawk Girl lets that guy die? Do you think she killed him
Oh, we're in
in that
spoilers
moment?
now. Oh, okay. Maybe we're just like, we were doing so well.
Well, I didn't say who he was. I didn't say who.
That's a point, but I guess maybe we should say maybe we're gonna spoil a few things from here on out. We're 30 minutes in. Obviously, you like it. You're either gonna see it or you're not gonna see it at this point. So here we go. The spoilers. Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. And so every hero in the film, except for Superman, does something morally questionable, right? Which is also kind of the point. Like, Mr. Terrific
Him being punk rock.
explodes the
Yeah.
kaiju. Hawkgirl kills the guy.
Even
Guy does
Metamorpho
something
splashes those guys with acid, and I'm like,
with
"Did he just kill
acid,
those guys?"
right? And so now, again, like some of those things, I think like, they were in armor, they're fine, they got it off or whatever, or like
I mean,
things like that.
they're in that pocket universe now. I don't know if they ever got out.
No, they definitely didn't. No, but other heroes don't have the no kill rule the same way that Superman does,
And
and
maybe he inspires them in this
to
movie, I
be
don't
better.
know.
That was a rumor a
Yeah.
long time ago. Remember that? Like Superman was good, like they're murderers, and he's gonna tell them to like not be murderers or whatever. And I'm glad that it wasn't as hardcore a storyline as that. But
Yeah.
honestly, if anybody's going to like be that person, Hawkgirl is where my money is on the lineup that was in this movie.
Yeah.
Based on her background, her warriorness, and every as a fan, and like, yes, it bothers me from like a moral level, like an emotional level. Like that's actually a part where I'm like, that's something I don't want to show you, young child.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
you might really attach yourself to her and then go, no, wait, now I have to backtrack that a little bit. So no, I don't like it from that area. But as far as like everyone not being like Superman because he is punk rock and that's kind of the point of the story, yeah, it's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I felt
I was
like
conflicted
okay.
too.
Yeah.
I just thought I was conflicted too. Yeah. But ultimately I come down on it. Superman's the only one who has that code.
Superman, Batman are kind of the guy, and Flash. Like those
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
like the
True.
three guys that don't, and the rest of them, it doesn't bother me the same
Yeah.
way.
Same. Same.
Yeah.
I guess I just like maybe I'm and we talked about this before with the DC, the way that they are kind of going in the harder PG-13 direction of the animated stuff where Harley Quinn is like an R. Like that's an R show, but even some of the other animated movies that they were doing before that, like they slowly started the language started to go up and then the violence started to go up and I guess it was like they've been slowly building this way for a while. And I'm just used to, I think the era that we grew up in, all superhero stuff was just cleaner. Like they didn't kill. And it wasn't even a no kill rule. It was just like, oh, they just don't kill. Like it was just an unspoken rule amongst superheroes. And I think that was because the stuff we were reading as we were growing up or watching, it was for a younger audience. But
And
Yes.
the parameters around what you could show on TV or put
that's
in
right.
books and everything was stricter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, they tried to have Batman kill on Batman the Animated Series, and the censors were the ones that were like, "You have to have that guy moan, otherwise it's gonna look
Yeah.
like he
Yeah.
died."
Yeah.
And so, like, this '90s Spider-Man show, he wasn't allowed to punch anybody. So if you watch it, it's all webs and kicks, but now, as a parent, if she's, like, into Spider-Man post Spidey and His Amazing Friends, I have to go backwards
Yeah.
into those shows because those are much safer. I'm
Yes.
not gonna show her Batman the Animated Series because there are just flat out guns and bullets, and I don't want her watching that. I even had to stop an episode of Brave and the Bold because, like,
Oh,
sometimes it's
wow.
lasers and, like, sometimes they're just guns, and I told her, I said, "Sweetie, you're too young for this. Like, you can't watch this one." And she goes, "Okay, that's fine. Let's watch the one with Mr. Mind gets really big." Okay, easy, no problem. Yeah, so it's some you just can't you're not supposed to expose kids to stuff too early. There's a reason that those ratings exist where they exist.
And that's one of the things that I have as a criticism of this movie, is that it is so close. It tonally, it does a really, really good job. And it's the kind of Superman that, like, yeah, in a couple of years, I'll be happy to show my kid. But, she's 3 right now. She's not ready for this. But it's too bad that so many of these things nowadays, comic book shows and films, are not really appropriate for kids. I love that they're making stuff for me at my current age, but it is sort of like okay, but I want it, how's the next generation gonna catch on to it if all superhero stuff is made for adults, from comics to TV to movie? Like, everything is made for adults right now.
This could have been a sweet PG movie.
It could have been it was, that's what gets me, is that it's so close that it could have been. Like, some of the things that would have made a difference are kind of gratuitous. Like, the number of, S swears in this movie was kind of gratuitous and didn't
I was
need to be there.
surprised. I was
I was
surprised by that.
surprised. I did notice they made a point, like, that never came out of Superman's mouth. He was saying "what the hey" and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think he did say, like, he didn't really kick Superman's ass, like Clark said that once. But
Yeah,
that's
he said that, and
That's
I think
benign.
he
You
did
can
say
get that
that.
in PG movie.
exactly.
I think he did say the hashtag super S.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
think
they.
he did say that because I was
But even
actually
that one,
when he was saying what the hey and golly and a lot of that stuff, I was like, yes, yes, this is the
yes,
Clark that I want. And then when he did swear, I was like, oh man, you almost could have like
yeah,
make it go full on. He is punk rock. He is the golly gee whiz, and that is not corny to me. That's cool that he's
yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
Right. And also truly, I mean, like, also, but I mean, when he does swear, he's just quoting something that somebody else said, which I will
That's why it
actually
didn't bother me
yes,
as much. But I still, like, that's how I justified it to myself, Vector. But, like, that was my instinct
Yeah.
too. Was like, man, so
yeah.
close, so
But
close.
truly, you get rid of that, you get rid of the big middle finger, like,
Yes, that
yeah,
was
like
funny.
multiple times, which was hilarious
That
as
was so James Gunn. Like, that was so James Gunn.
and so Guy. Like, I was just like
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like a perfect blend
Which
of the two of them.
they
And we
are the
haven't
same.
talked I was gonna say we have not even mentioned Guy yet. I thought to me, Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner were the standout like scene stealers. I did not expect them to be as funny. A lot of the humor comes from either Mr. Terrific's dryness or
Mm,
Guy's brashness and just being a jerk. And excuse me, both of those two provided like I want to say 90% of the laughs for me. Then the rest were probably Superman, but they to me were better than I thought they were going to be. I thought
mm,
both of their representations were better. And my wife left the movie like she had no idea who Mr. Terrific was before this. And as she left the movie, she was like, "Who is that actor? Who is the character? I want more Mr. Terrific stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, this is what this movie also is. This could be a gateway to people of introducing them to new characters." So that was great seeing that. I thought they did a great job with both characters.
Yeah,
And we're
I
going to
agree.
see
Yeah, they were the
I was gonna say
standout
we're gonna see
for
them in
me.
Peacemaker also. Oh, and Peacemaker showed up too.
Yeah. I which did not feel gratuitous. That felt so
Yeah,
that was
natural.
so
yeah,
funny. I laughed that was so good.
I
yeah.
But I agree. I'm like not a huge Guy Gardner fan, but I think Nathan Fillion is even when he's at his most unlikable, he's likable. That's part of the charm of
Yes,
him as an actor.
yes.
Yes, it's very
And
charming.
so like he was so excellent. He was exactly what I wanted him to be. And truthfully, Mr. Terrific really Superman aside, Superman and Lois aside, he kind of stole the movie for me. Like that was that he was the guy. I have an original page from a JSA run. It is just Mr. Terrific hanging on my wall. Hold on, I will actually get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
go
think
grab
This
it.
is
I think
now so much even. I was happy before, and now I'm even happier to have this piece.
yes.
Give me.
Yeah, let's do it. Go grab it.
And I'm
Yeah.
one of my favorite superpowers, along with super speed, is super intelligence. And Mr. Trick's intelligence, the way he solves problems, the way he invented the T spheres, and then him correcting her. Their spheres, circles are two dimensional. That was a great
That was so
joke.
good. Circles.
Yes.
Starts with get this closer as best I can.
Yes.
So it's
Man.
basically Mr. Terrific
Yes.
battling. Basically Mr. Terrific battling the KKK,
Uh-huh.
but it just
Uh-huh.
goes and goes until this panel where it's just fair play on his arm punching a member of the Klan in
Klansman
the face
in his hood.
in his hood, and
Right in the face.
it's just an incredible piece. It's from JSA issue 71, May 2005. Don Kramer is the artist who you don't see a lot of Don Kramer anymore. He might be retired. I'm not sure, but he was
20
on
years ago,
Batman
yeah.
Detective about 20 years ago, JSA for a while, Wonder Woman when J. Michael Straczynski was writing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's been around for a while, but it's my favorite page. And I'm not even like Mr. Terrific's not even like in my top 5. I just love this page so much. But this movie was like Mr. Terrific just made his way from the third smartest man to the third, you know what I mean? Like just went all the way up.
Moved up the ranks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome.
Mm-hmm.
His scene in like at the camp was incredible. Like
Yes.
he's just the smart guy.
Yes. And
That
in the
was
pocket universe and everything. Like
yeah.
I would watch a movie
Yes.
of I
Absolutely.
would watch a movie of this version of Mr. Terrific. Like, and I didn't think I'd be saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really want to see what ends up being the Justice League in this DC universe because we got the Hall of Justice, and there was only 3. Yeah, I love seeing that the outside,
yeah.
but it's like, dang, there are only 3 members at this point, and well, I guess at the end, Metamorpho joins them.
Yeah.
But it's like, what are the plans going to be to increase it to League, and then what members are going to be in it? Like those, my brain was at the end of the movie, I was like thinking about, oh, what could be set up in this DC universe? What could be
Truthfully,
coming?
I think it's just generally moving to Justice League Unlimited. Like
That's
instead of, like,
kind of my
Ooh.
feeling.
you're your core members, like everybody's a member of Justice League.
Yes, yes.
And I like that
man,
model.
yeah, I really hope something comes, we get some news soon because I like this, the way that James Gunn said, I don't want to move forward unless the script is solid and set,
Mm.
and that's the most important thing. And to me, I was like, why wouldn't they always have had that approach? It just makes sense. But whatever is coming, I know that we're in good hands because this movie and the fact that what James Gunn has said in interviews, they kind of have put me at ease that this is a good foundation for this DC universe. So I can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah, and we know tones will be different and everything like
Right,
that. They
different
said, like, it's
directors
not
will
like
come in.
every movie's gonna be like
Of course.
this one, which is excellent because not every movie should be like this one. Like, I don't want to watch a Swamp Thing movie that looks like this.
I was gonna say
It's
that the
so wrong.
Clayface movie is not gonna be like this.
Yeah, no,
for sure.
I would not think
Even
so.
100%.
Supergirl's not going to be like this from what we
Right.
know about her. It's just not the same. Listen, we're in spoilers. I really do want to talk about something that I think seems to be a main talking point for people after seeing the movie is this Kryptonian heritage versus human heritage and what they're doing with what they've done with Krypton and it making it look like full spoilers from, here. If people are like, oh, there's a few spoilers, this is just the plot now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like they've gone with the conquering Kryptonians. It seems like that part of the message from Superman's homeworld from his parents. The first part is very like loving and be a hope for us and we love you and blah blah blah. And the second part of the message you never heard because it was damaged is unearthed by the engineer, whom I loved, was great. She was super cool. I mean awful, but super cool. So at this Warrior Krypton and be like, oh, maybe Lex like fabricated the second half of it or whatever, and even Mr. Terrific's like, nah, I know those people. They wouldn't have said it was true unless it was true. Like, so it just seems to be true. How do we feel about that whole thing, the way it was dealt with? Vector, you go first.
So as far as like the juxtaposition of what we're used to from the
I guess,
Kryptonian,
and on top of that, so like he seems to be basically ignoring the Kents, right? Where he is not talking to them. Like he's very brusque. He wants to get off the phone with his mother early on, and then they call him 22 times when everything kind of happens, and he doesn't respond to them, and finally he's like forced to go there in some ways when he's hurt, in some ways that he has weirdly rejected his human heritage, and then it kind of flips it on it, and he like recognizes the stability that they've given him versus what he has laid his hope in. I really liked it. The more I thought about it, I'll start off so you guys have time to think about it. I thought it like, because normally I'm like, oh, don't diss the Kents, man. Like you never diss the Kents, but that's all he knows. And how much do we take our parents for granted, truly, as a really human thing? To like you should have brusquely get off the phone with mom or whatever, just like, because like, I don't have time for this. I'm at work or whatever. And so that's something that basically everybody does, right? I know very few people who don't do that. And so for him to then like take a step back and then see what they actually did for him and to not take that granted, and it wasn't actually this message that sent him down this path, it was them that did it the whole time. These regular folk, as regular as they come. I really like that because it was like this an adopted kid who finds his birth parents basically, and then like gravitates towards that because they're new and it's different, and he feels intellectual, like he can look at it intellectually, but what he was missing was the emotional core of it all. And so I really liked how it was handled, especially in the meta context, with because James Gunn was very clear that like he did not have a good relationship with his father growing up, and they reconciled later in life. And so I do feel that part of the story, looking at it from that perspective, is that like what kind of person do you become based on where you come from, right? And that's really, and what do you accept and what do you reject and all those things. And truthfully, if you're gonna like, I prefer the more benevolent Kryptonians, but they weren't that great. They let their planet blow up. Let's be serious here. They're not like, it gets rid of like the godness of it, which I always like, but I just kind of love in some ways that like the murder Superman had a benevolent father, and like you be save them, and but then this one who's like love everyone is like, oh, apparently they conquered people and whatever. But I also saw it as, like, just because you were a member of the Roman Empire doesn't mean you were also doing all the conquering, or whatever, or mistranslations do occur. I do think there's a lot of wiggle room in there moving forward. But anyway, how do you guys feel about it?
Well, I always like the nature versus nurture argument. To me, that's always been fascinating to me. And so, as a Superman fan, I've always thought that Jonathan and Martha are the reason he is who he is because they instilled the values in him. And so I like the way that Gunn wrote that into this movie because it's something we've always known. We've known that in many different iterations from Smallville to, Superman the animated series to Lois and Clark, whatever it is, you see where he gets his goodness, his kindness from his parents. So I like that. And as far as them, sending him to conquer, and I just thought it was funny, the harems and the conquering and get as many women as you can and spread the seed around. I thought that was funny more than anything, but it wasn't necessarily surprising to me because we've seen it before in Smallville. Jor-El was not, nefarious, and we've seen it in even My Adventures with Superman, which was not too long ago, where the Kryptonians were sending invasion forces in and those things. So I feel like this is like the biggest scale that we've seen it as. So a lot of people are not going to watch My Adventures with Superman. Smallville had a fan following, and definitely there's a large amount of people that have seen Smallville, but more people are going to see this movie, and so they're going to be exposed to it. And this will just be another interesting way that some people will grow up with this being their canon. Like they won't know the benevolent. Like they will always know, oh yeah, his Krypton parents were bad, but his Earth parents were good. So to me, it didn't really bother me on that level, but I love the nature versus nurture, and that he was nurtured, and that is why he is who he is.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think it's also, I also prefer a benevolent Jor-El and Lara, but what I appreciated about it was that they used it for a story purpose, which was
Yes.
for Jonathan to tell him, like, your parents, your birth parents aren't who you are, like, aren't who you are. You are who you are. You don't have to be what they were or what they told you to be. Like, you are your own guy, and I'm so proud of the man you've become. Like, that is what that was for, right, was for him to learn that lesson that like, okay, it doesn't matter why they sent me. I'm here and I'm doing this is my mission and I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I liked it because they made use of it, right? If you're going to make a change, have it like have an impact.
Mhm.
And I was on board with it because of that. I also was uneasy about it, but once I saw that it had a story purpose, I was pretty much cool with it.
Yeah, and not even just a MacGuffin story purpose, it had character purpose.
Character
Right.
purpose. Yeah, yeah,
Had
yeah.
Right.
two very specific purposes, and so I'm for changes like that. And truthfully, if you're gonna change somebody, like I'd rather have you change Jor-El and Laura than Ma and Pa or Superman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
100%.
Like
right.
Yeah.
if those are the choices, I'd rather have
Yep,
Ma and Pa stay who they are.
for sure.
I just
For
wonder
sure.
now, how does that affect Supergirl? And is she gonna be like, okay, I was sent here to rule? Or like I don't know how they're gonna play with that. Like we
Hmm.
already know the Woman of Tomorrow storyline. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, or maybe they just don't even talk about it at all.
Maybe truthfully, I do feel in some ways like based on again, we're in the spoiler section, based on her appearance in this film, that did feel a little added on because some of what they said, like, is like my only connection to my planet is this message 2 hours later. Hey cousin, how are you?
True.
Good to see you
Yeah.
again.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it's like you have a dog and he's from Krypton. We know that. Like
yep.
It's more of
he's
a
Yeah, he
foster
there.
never fits,
situation.
but yeah, maybe I feel like even more like his direct family, because obviously he has other things like the Superman robots and like whatever else. But
Gary and the boys, yeah.
Gary and the boys, exactly.
Which I
Yeah, good,
love
good
Alan
proper
Tudyk
name.
in
Yeah,
anything. So he was just
yeah.
great in this too.
He was. But I think her appearance in it where, he's like, "Oh, she likes to party on planets with red suns or whatever." She clearly has PTSD. And so like
Mm,
that's like she is drinking to forget. She is partying to forget. And so what that means for her as far as, like her Kryptonian heritage, or she's forgetting just because she doesn't have a planet anymore, or like she disagrees with how she was raised or whatever.
They could do
Some
that.
of that,
Yeah.
it could be any
Yeah.
of those things, but
Yeah.
I
I could see
am
that.
yeah, I'm okay with any of that because no offense to Kara, but she can be kind of a blank slate of a character. Like there's
Mhm.
so many different iterations of her. You
Right.
could take her in a lot of directions and they're still pretty authentic.
in the case of Matrix, it's pretty much literally a blank slate.
Correct.
Well, and especially outside of comic books, like in the mainstream, if you think about like the Supergirl TV show, I think is probably
They did
the
one of those?
Supergirl TV talk on the Thoughtable Audio Network.
that was probably the widest, like that's probably the most well-known version now.
Mhm.
Obviously, before that, it was the
Definitely.
80s movie. And so I think they have a blank they definitely have a blank slate right now that they could imprint anything they want onto this Woman of Tomorrow movie. And I gotta say, my second audience, the prime screening, was way more enthusiastic than my press screening audience. So when Kara showed up, the press I don't think the press even knew who it was. Nobody said anything in the press screening. In the prime one, there was multiple gasps. What? And one lady stood up out of her chair and it was like I was like, "Yes, this is the reaction I wanted. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is it."
Yeah, her appearance was the only time my audience reacted to anything. They were dead silent. They were
Yeah.
not in a good way. I love silent movies.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
talk during the movie. Don't take out phones.
Me and Buster
Exactly.
Keaton. I love silent movies.
And so no. They the audience was so respectful. Nobody did anything. They were just engaged in the movie, and her showing up was the only time that people were like, "What?" Which is great. People enjoyed the movie. You could feel it in the theater. I think the press screenings are like you're supposed to be quiet. You're all at work.
I
Like
guess, yeah.
yeah, don't you're not there as a fan. You're there to work.
Right.
Don't talk during the movie.
I just like it when people like we I'm sure we've all seen the end game reaction of
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
left and everybody's screaming. Like I like and I had that when for my end game screening. Like there was a guy right next to me when that happened. He was like, "Let's go!" And I was like, "Well, this guy's into it." I like people's enthusiasm in
Yeah.
those moments. And there was another one when the I'm going to call him Bizarro when the Superman clone Bizarro
No,
when
he's
he
definitely going to
gets
Bizarro World. Like
Oh,
I would love
1,000%. Yeah, he's not
man.
dead. He's
no,
not dead. Like that when he got sucked in that black hole, I was like, that's not Superman killing. He's not dead.
no, Superman knows he can survive a black hole. That was like
Right.
Yeah.
that is so I
When he got taken out, one guy in my audience was like, Oh, so that like people were having these like really good reactions,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I just felt like, and I was wearing the shirt that both of the logo that both of you are wearing right now, and I was one of probably 15 people that were wearing the shirt. And as I was walking in my row, I said to this guy, "Oh, nice shirt," and he said, "Hey, nice shirt." So I think that was the audience, like Frank was saying, these are the people who want to be there. They want to be there opening night.
Yeah, that was my audience too. I think easily half the theater was wearing Superman stuff, and I'd say a fourth of it was dressed up in some sort of cosplay. Like people
I
were
will say,
there for Superman.
yeah, there was a ton of cosplay at the press screening too. I was kind of surprised. Those guys in full Superman. I will say, in my press screening, not only do we get these little Superman fans, but also like our local comic book shop, Samurai Comics, was giving everybody Krypto's first appearance. So
That's
I
so
thought that
That was
was
fun.
awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
Did they just
So that
reprint
was
that?
cool.
Is that a new like that's
I
so cool.
I think so because it has like it's got like the vintage ads
Wow,
on
the
it,
ads and everything.
but then it's
That's
got the
so cool.
crypto, the modern stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
So cool.
that
Huh.
was super cool. I think, like I said, the foundation in this movie, what was set up, and that Superman has humanity are what
Hmm.
really I took away from this movie. The speech that he gives Lex at the end about being human, I thought was that's just James Gunn talking to the audience. And it was like, yeah, that is what I want you to say. Like, if you're going to be in charge of Superman, I want you to have that take on Superman. I don't
Yes.
want it to be all right, it's the Zack Snyder, his take on Man of Steel and on Superman just was not my version of Superman that I want to see. And this is the version of Superman that I like and that I want to be an inspiration to people. So I think that's what they got right in this movie. That he is human, he has emotions, he gets upset, he gets mad, and
Not to say that Henry Cavill's didn't have any of those things. Like that is a disservice, I think, to he gets very upset in those movies, so much so that, he kills somebody, and so much so that he tells Batman he's going to kill him. And so much so that he kills somebody else, probably. I don't know. I'm just making it up. But like
I almost
does get visibly sad and upset in those movies. It's that he doesn't experience joy in those
yeah, that's what I was
movies.
gonna say. There's no
Yeah.
contrast to it. It's all
Correct.
one note. That's what I don't like about Henry Cavill's Superman is everything is just one note. And this Superman, he's happy, he smiles, he's
He
dancing with
saves a
Jimmy.
squirrel, like,
That
it's
was
the best.
Yeah. He saves from the smallest life form to the kaiju. He wanted to save the kaiju. And that's what I want Superman to be. I want him to be that. That's the message that I want everyone to take away from that. So
He
that's what I
turned
loved about this
himself
movie.
in. He turned himself into the feds because maybe they'll take me where the dog is. Like that was
Yes.
his
Yes.
stated reason for turning himself in.
Yes.
Right, he's just a
Where's the
helpless
dog?
animal. Yeah,
Yeah.
where's the dog? But I mean,
I
like,
will
even
say,
go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, and this is my own fault. I watched too many trailers. That was one thing I did leave disappointed because the whole reason why I stopped watching trailers years ago. This was Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 1, when I stopped
Mm.
watching trailers. Recently I have started watching them again, but the whole reason was I would get to the movie and I'm like, I've seen all the funniest moments. I've seen the best action beats. A lot of times I can piece together the plot. This one I watched too many. And so I felt like I wish I had restricted myself more because there were so many things that I saw on the screen that I was like, oh, that was not a surprise for me. Obviously, Supergirl was a surprise. There were moments that I was I was shocked, but overall, it wasn't like a huge thing where I was like, I kind of felt like I've already seen most of this movie. So that was my fault. I just wish I hadn't watched as many things as I did.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't give away the plot necessarily. In this case, it was more like lots of visuals that could have had big impact, like, Superman and Lois flying up in the air in that indoor mall or whatever it was, like stuff like that were like visually stunning images that were clearly intended to have great emotional impact. But when you've seen it in the trailer, it doesn't quite have the same. It's still impactful, but not quite the same as your first time seeing it.
I completely agree, and so what I think the lesson here for all of us is that we're just not gonna do trailer breakdowns anymore.
This is why I haven't been watching that many trailers the last couple of years. I watched more than I normally do for this one because I was really excited about it, but like I didn't go crazy. I didn't watch everything that was out there by any stretch. I watched the theatrical trailers, a couple TV spots. That was it. Like,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
but yeah, I stand by my my usual, just sort of, if I see stuff, I see stuff, but I'm not gonna chase it, because then I end up getting surprised.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. There was much more of this movie in the trailers than I expected, and I even like the way the movie started. That's actually how I anticipated the movie was starting, and so all of a
Mm.
sudden, I was like, I started the movie, and I was like, I was right.
Hmm.
And so, what else was I right about? And I was right about like all of it. And so, which in some ways dampens it a little bit, but I also feel like that's I would I wanted to see what I thought of, if that makes sense. You know, like I thought this was how it was going to go. I hope this is how it's going to go because that sounds good to me, and it's exactly how it went. And so, where I wasn't surprised, I was blessedly like self-appeased, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Satisfied.
Yeah.
I was satisfied.
You didn't, I think, Tangent, you didn't watch the one, now I'm forgetting. There was a trailer that was like 5 minutes before a movie, and it showed the full opening
No, I did
where
watch
the
that. I
you
went
did watch that.
into the theater and it was
Yeah.
there. So like same thing. I haven't been watching trailers, but the newest Fantastic Four trailer was before not Superman, before I saw Jurassic World, and I was like, well, I wasn't
Yeah.
going to watch it, but here it is, and there's definitely stuff in there that I would have liked to have been surprised about, but here we are. So I'll watch the teaser and maybe the first full trailer. After that, I got to stop. Yeah.
Yeah. I think from now on, and I was doing this for a while too, I would only watch the teaser. I wouldn't even watch the full trailer. This one, it was just, I was so excited. It was hard not to. I had to give in
Yeah.
to watch it. So I think from now on, boys, teasers only for me. For Doomsday, for Secret Wars, you guys got to hold me accountable because I'm going to want to
All
break my
right.
rule.
I will fly to Arizona and I will say,
Yes.
Put
where is he?
blinders on
I
me.
don't
Yeah.
know
No.
more than that. Yeah.
Where's the Vector? Where is he?
When is Supergirl? 2027
No, it's
or
next summer.
26? 26. I would guess we see the next, if this gets a sequel, a Superman sequel, I would guess 2028 for the 90th anniversary. Yeah, 90th anniversary
Ooh.
of Superman would be a good time to do it.
They have hinted strongly that Superman is going to appear in less than 2 years. I think they said something like
Yeah,
that. Which
I
would assume
did hear
that
him say
means
that.
Supergirl.
Yeah,
I
because
would
he didn't
assume,
say
Right.
where, but yeah,
yeah, I would assume that means Supergirl.
yeah,
But I would,
100%.
yeah,
I'm sure he's already filmed his scenes too. Almost 1 year from today, June 26, 2026 is the Supergirl release date. So in about a year, boys, will we be back here talking Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow?
we'll be back, baby. Of course we
We'll be
will.
wearing Supergirl shirts.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think, like I said, to me, this was a great start, great foundation, and it left me hopeful that we're in good hands. Like, I want the next three Superman movies, the Justice League movie, like this Superman, this version of Superman, I'm going to feel good having him around in the DC universe.
Yeah.
I gotta say something though. We have not done a couple things. One, this is very small, but I love that big thing that everyone thought was the Sun Eater, right? In the trailer in the first drop was like, oh, that was just a fifth dimensional thing. They've got
That
that.
was amazing, by the way. That was just, they were just ignoring it. Like, it's so good.
Incredible. I
And
was
Hal was
I
hitting it with the bat.
yeah,
Yes.
I just love that like it I was not happy that he was ignoring it for so long. And then I watched the movie and I was like, I'm so happy he's ignoring. He's like, they haven't handed me for everything. Like
Yeah.
that's fine.
I
Love
was
that.
annoyed because I was like, is he not noticing it? That doesn't make sense that he doesn't notice it. How can he not be?
Right.
Oh, it's okay. All right, cool.
When they
All
did
right, that's cool.
that promotional shot, like the first shot we saw where he's putting on his boots, and then there was a shot where that was going on in the background and he was talking to Lois. And I had the exact same reaction. I was like, why would he not care? Like, what story are they telling? But in the context of the movie, it makes perfect sense that
Which goes to
he
show you that
already
we really should just you hold the reaction until you see the movie. I say it over and over again. Sometimes I don't listen to myself, but it's all good. We've not talked about Lex Luthor at all.
I was gonna bring this up. Yes, we have
At
not talked
all.
about him.
We have not talked about Nicholas Hoult as
Yeah.
Lex Luthor. This is the most Lex Luthor has ever been on the big screen. I'm going to say that distinctly on the big screen because we've seen a lot of Lexes over a grand scheme of time. John Cryer was an incredible Lex Luthor on Supergirl, especially when he first did season 4. He first appeared, and it was really, really great Lex Luthor. The Lex Luthor that was just on Superman and Lois was excellent. I can't remember the actor's name. Michael.
Oh yeah, Michael.
Something.
Yeah. Oh geez, I'll think of it.
Michael Rosenbaum obviously was an incredible Lex Luthor on Smallville. John Shea, even on Lois and Clark, was a really
Yes.
good one.
Underrated.
Kevin Spacey, say what you will about Kevin Spacey, but he was a great Lex Luthor on the big screen. Gene
That
Hackman
was the one I was going to say. I think still gives Nicholas Hoult a run for his money is Kevin
is
Spacey,
Spacey,
because that as
but it
terrible person, but phenomenal Lex Luthor.
but but this Lex Luthor has the corporation, has the big science brain, has the envy, has he literally has all the components of Lex Luthor, in which that every other single one of those Lexes that I've said lacks in some capacity. Even John Cryer, who's just like has a beard or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, like some they just don't all add up to be exactly the Lex Luthor that I know and love and hate. But here he was in all his glory, being the worst. And I thought he just did a great job. He was not as over the top as I thought he was going to be. He was really cold and calculating and slowly lost his cool over the course of the movie. And I really liked that. I just like he thought he had it all, and like any good Lex Luthor scheme, he is undone by his own folly, like by something he just didn't see. I also think the movies are cursed, and Lex Luthor must have a land scheme of some kind to be on the big screen. Like he just can't help it, even in the background. Like, oh, he's gonna have half of this country. Oh, guess what? It's land. It goes back to land over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Speaking of land, did you notice in the credits what Otis's name is?
No,
I
Otis
was
His
going to
name
look for
is
that.
Otis Berg.
Yes, yes,
Nice.
Literally, last name Berg.
Nice.
yes.
I did not see that, but that is nice.
Love that. Love it.
Michael Cudlitz?
Cutlets, yeah.
Cudlitz?
Sorry with
That was
C.
it.
Yeah, I really liked Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor, and 100% shades of All-Star Superman, the Grant Morrison version of Lex Luthor. I loved that he was so many steps ahead at the beginning that you were like, how is Superman gonna defeat him? Because not only is he's doing the Palpatine thing where it's like he's pulling every string, he's playing both sides of the board, and then even to the point where he was controlling Bizarro through just moves ahead of time, like C5, C94,
So
L.
there's a great foreshadowing. Did you guys catch the foreshadow? So the way that he was controlling Ultraman, Bizarro, which whatever, was basically like a chess game, right? A4, knight to C5, do this move, do this move, do this move, do this move. When Clark is at the Kent house, there's a chessboard next to the bed in the room, showcasing that Clark can also play chess, and Clark
Maybe
can
that was the
also
turning
think
point.
ahead, and that is the turning point. Exactly. That's where he
nice.
steps it back and then starts playing Lex's game, because it's Superman. Lex's mistake here it is. Superman is not just brawn, he's also brain, which Lex doesn't understand. He's undone by thinking that he's the smartest man in the room, and he could be undone by other smart people, or in case of Eve, maybe some dumb but also smart people, right? And so also great use of Jimmy, by the way. We didn't talk about Jimmy either,
Yeah.
but great use of Jimmy Olsen. So yeah, I
So good.
just I loved this Lex. I love the coffee cup thing, and
Yeah, that was, and
like,
I had that spoiled for me. And I was like, man, I wish I had seen that in the context of the
really?
movie, but I still love it. Yeah, so they played that on the Jimmy Kimmel interview that had David Cornsweet and
I don't
Nicholas
watch
Hoult.
the interviews. I'm already gonna see the movie.
Well, I didn't know they were gonna play that. Like, I was really excited for the interview, and they played that scene with the coffee cup, and I was like, oh no.
I'm talking about the pencils, like not the.
Okay, yes, okay, not
Yeah.
the ugly dog with a cape. That I like. I
Is
laughed
that what
so
he said?
hard.
I couldn't figure it out.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I could not figure it out.
I
Yeah.
don't know what dog you're talking about. Ugly dog with a cape.
Yeah.
What did you say? Yeah, that was great. But yeah, the when he knocked it over, like pick that up. Yeah, that was perfect, Lex Luthor. But yeah, like this version, it's great that James Gunn had so many comic book influences, and I love that Tom King is one of the credited like special credits on this movie, and I feel like he had probably a ton of input on the movie overall.
He's part of their story cabal, for lack of a better word. So
Yes.
like, he works on every
'Cause
movie.
I was gonna say
Nice.
I heard he was doing something on Lanterns also.
He's show running Lanterns. He's co-show
Okay,
running
yes,
Lanterns.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
He didn't write Girl Tomorrow, but
Can't
he
wait for
consulted on the
Lent.
script, if I
Okay.
remember correctly. So
Yeah.
because they used parts of stories part of the story, like stuff he had cut from the original novel.
Mhm.
It's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, his like cold calculating and then letting his envy consume him, and even him saying like, I know that I've let my envy. There was just so many good back and forth, tall, dark, and Martian, like same difference, like that.
Tall, Dark, and Martian. I'm sorry. Who was the guy with the levers in the Pocket Universe?
So
Slender Man.
they called him Mr. Handsome, and I heard James Gunn talking about him in interviews before I saw him in the movie, and they had made jokes about Mr. Handsome. I don't know if that is a specific character or not, though.
Because
I didn't.
because he says Martian and Clark says, or Superman says Kryptonian. He says same difference. And that in that when you see that, that's when you see Mr. Handsome. So my
He
thought was that he's a white Martian. That's like
does look
my
like a white
brain went
Martian.
directly to white Martian.
That was what I thought when I saw him. I, what you just said, the naming of it, but yeah, when I saw him, I thought Martian. But I don't. I almost feel like it's just a joke of James Gunn, like, oh look, he's hideous, so I'm going to call him Mister Handsome, and that there's no other, like, he's not trying to reference anything
Be
else, but
anybody.
it could it could fit. It could go both ways. It could be the White Martian, and then maybe another director comes in or another storyteller comes in and is like, "Hey, remember that White Martian? Yeah, that was like that is related to Martian Manhunter." So there is actually a character called Mr. Handsome. I just looked him up. That is a Catwoman crime lord and enemy of Catwoman. So
I'm gonna say it's not the same person.
yeah, this is just a
Probably
guy,
not.
Mr. Handsome. He's a crime lord. But yeah, I think that was one of those moments that I was like, yeah, I don't want my son to see this. The grotesqueness of Mr. Handsome when he vomited the nanites, the
Yep.
nanotech out of his body. And I feel like those are James Gunn. You know, if you look at his filmography of Slither, like body
Body
horror, and there's a lot of stuff that
Yeah, yeah.
he takes from it. But I think this was like a restrained James Gunn.
Yeah. I was thinking of Lex shooting the guy point blank. The guy is, like I loved that relationship that Clark had with him. Like they knew who he was. He gave me some food. Like, how's your kid? Like that's the Superman that I love so much.
And that scream when he is murdered and Superman screams through the kryptonite poisoning, it hit me almost the same as the Christopher Reeve scream when Lois dies in Superman
Totally.
1. That, and to this day, like that gives me chills when he screams, and that acting and that it just puts me in the world, and I'm like, I could feel the character coming through the screen. This scream had the same resonance for me, and I saw it the second time. I felt the same way. I was like, to me, that is perfect, telling me, painting a picture of who Superman is. That this guy that gave him food one time because he was murdered, Superman acted like that was his dad dying. And he puts the
Yeah.
same emphasis on it. Like that to me means every life matters to him. And that's who I want to look up to. That's who I want to be as a person. Like, so that it
Mhm.
just made me happy to see that.
Mhm. Yep.
Frank, you have not given us your thoughts on Lex apart from him being close to like Spacey giving him a run for his money. Like, what are your
Yeah, but I thought he was fantastic. I thought that he had the controlled rage thing down really well for most of the movie. Obviously, he lets loose at the end, right? But he did really, really. You could see that he was like on thin ice, like about to explode any moment. Like he was keeping it together, but like there was a lot under the surface. I thought he was menacing. He was scary. He was like clearly a bad guy. Like it was everything that I want from a Lex portrayal. I thought he was great. I didn't really know what to when he was cast. I was I don't want to say skeptical, but I just didn't know what to expect. But I thought he did absolutely fantastic. And gosh, so much love. I love that it was Luthor Corp and not Lex Corp too. That was just sort of as an aside. I like that too.
James Gunn said specifically that was because he liked Smallville. Like that was the
Yeah, yeah,
rationale is I like Smallville, and so
yep,
it's going to be Luther
Yep.
Corp, which I like. And he said it does leave the door open if anybody wants to explore his parents in any particular
sure.
way. Part of me does wish I love Smallville and I love Luther Corp and whatever, but LexCorp is what I grew up with. So, and I feel like I saw somebody write that, like, like Lex would name the company after Lex because it's a shrine to himself, and not to
True.
anybody
Yeah, I
else.
also heard James Gunn say. Like nobody names their company after their first name. Everyone always names it. So like that just
I did
doesn't.
also see that, but also Lex did name the company after his first name.
Yes,
But also,
his ego. Yes, yes,
it's one of those things that, like, it just doesn't matter in the grand scheme because
doesn't matter.
ultimately that was the Lex Luthor I wanted. So if it's Luthor Corp instead of Lex Corp, whatever, baby.
So what?
His office turned into a space, like into a little spaceship thing. So, like,
Yes.
great, great, no
Yes.
problem.
I did you guys see anything? I have not looked this up yet, but I don't know why. But both times I watched the movie, the guy that was the henchman that had the Coke bottle glasses,
Mhm.
was that James Gunn? Because I felt like his voice sounded like James Gunn, and he was like doing a incognito character. Did anyone see who that was? Like
No,
they
I
never. He
didn't.
doesn't even have a name in the movie.
I think
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was James Gunn. In fact, I thought I recognized that character actor, but I'm gonna need to look him up to know for sure. But I thought I recognized him from I don't know what. It was kind of bothering me actually whenever he was on screen. I was
I
trying to figure
wonder.
that
I
out.
had the same. I was like, I know you, but I don't know why I know
And I was
you.
Yeah,
like, why would they put these giant glasses on him? Like, they're drawing attention to him by putting these glasses on him. Also, Michael Rooker is a James Gunn, like he's been in almost every movie, and he was at the premiere and he's
He's
listed in the
one of
cast.
the Superman robots.
Okay. Okay. I was like, where is he? Because when I watched it the second time, I was like, is he doing the motion capture for the kaiju? Like, what
yeah,
is
No,
he doing? Okay,
sure.
so it's
he's one of the
Superman
robots.
robots. Okay.
He's one of the
That
robots.
makes sense.
So is Palm. Oh, I
Oh,
can't remember his last
wow.
name.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Clementieff. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, she is. Yes, she is. She's
yeah. It
also a
is. Yeah.
Superman robot.
Yes.
He looked at
Yeah.
me. I'm pretty sure that's her.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. Yes, that was great, yeah.
A lot of
I
those
also
Superman
love
robots were practical. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Ooh, I
They
did
were
not.
not C. A lot of it was CG. The way that they got him
Nice.
to move and
Okay,
talk to him and whatever, like all on screen.
nice.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the Silver Age, gold like, that's the comic booky, in other movies, they would feel like, "Oh, that's too campy, we can't put that on screen." It's like, "No,
Sure.
we're embracing it, we love this medium, we love this form," and as a superhero fan, not even just Superman fan, as a superhero fan, that makes me proud that I don't need to hide in the corner when I'm reading my superhero books. It's like,
Mm,
I wanna be proud of, "This is what I love. I love superheroes, I love comic books, and I want everyone else to love them as much as I do." So that's what made me happy for this movie.
Yeah. Is Crypto the goodest boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Even
the
though he's a bad boy, I still like
he's kind of a
the
bad
scene
boy.
of him on his chest
mhm.
in his home in Smallville, that and then the hug at the end on the moon, those scenes endear him to me.
Mm,
Yep. Even like, but I mean, even Crypto had a little arc, which I think was amazing. Like, he destroys things, he gets this thing, and then finally he like gets to do the thing he wants to do. It
Yeah,
just
"Go
aligns.
get the toy." Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
that was great.
The Hug on the Moon, both post credits were great, but I
yeah.
particularly loved the second post credit when the buildings didn't quite align. It's just, golly, I can be such a jerk sometimes. Like,
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
best.
Yes,
So
that was
good.
great. You know what's
Hey, while
kinda
we're talking about
weird?
cameos, don't forget Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be in it more.
He is
That
in
was
Peacemaker. I know
yeah,
that.
I know
Yeah, or
he's
he's
in
briefly.
Peacemaker.
Love that. And Christopher Reeve's son, whose first name
Yes,
escapes me, the reporter.
Will
Will.
Reeve.
Thank you. Will Reeve was the reporter.
Was
Yes.
that him? Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yep. Commenting on the kaiju fight. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
And he was at the premiere, and when they were interviewing him, he was like, no spoilers, but I have some practice doing what I did in the movie. Like, the character that I play in the movie, I've had some practice of being a reporter." So, that was kind of fun. I already had seen the movie at that point, so I knew what he was talking about. Yeah, that was there was a ton of great cameos and call Easter eggs and things of, "Oh, I
Oh,
know
yeah.
this is from this comic or from this thing," or even just from James Gunn stuff.
Two small Easter eggs. There was a Jurgens Street and a Wade Street
Ooh,
in street
nice.
signs in
Yes,
the background.
yes. I
Great.
remember that. Yes.
I was not
Yeah.
looking for Easter eggs because I only saw it, this one time. I'm actually going again tomorrow to see it again on IMAX. But I now my eye, now that I know the story, my eye can be open for other things.
Yes.
Like now I need to expand my
Yeah.
goings on.
Mhm.
There was stuff that I didn't hear the first time that I heard the second time. I did want to say one of the things I liked about this movie that we haven't seen in other Superman movies is the flying scenes, the way that they were filmed. And James Gunn specifically said he took influence from Top Gun Maverick. And I think it
Mhm.
paid off because the sense of speed is something that I don't think we've gotten before in a lot of the flight scenes. Even going back to as much as I think we love the Christopher Reeve movie, just the limitations of the technology at the time, he moves so slow in certain scenes where he's flying. And in this one, it's just the sense of speed is unparalleled. I just feel like, and people were saying that the face looked goofy and things like that, but I felt like that was intentional because he's saying, like, if you were really with him at that speed and you were going, if you had a camera on his face, like there would be a distortion. Like there's just something about it. It wouldn't look normal. And so seeing him flying, there was one scene where he was flying through rain and weather effects to get
Yes,
to
that was
the
great.
fortress.
Yeah,
I
that was a
thought
great.
all
Yeah.
of those, the flying in this movie is something we haven't seen before. Like if you're going into it and say, "Oh, what have I never seen before with Superman? I've seen it all." I think this is a reason to watch this movie is the flying scenes. I actually wish there were more of them.
Mm.
So I thought that was
I
notable
wanna look
to
out
talk
again
about.
when I watch it again tomorrow, because one of the things that stood out to me about the flying scenes is that I thought I caught that when he is more frantic, the camera work during those scenes is more frantic.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm,
it mirrors his mood and his demeanor, how, like, manic the flying feels, which I thought was just very well done. I sort of noticed that on one of the last times in the film that they did that, so I wanna now pay attention throughout and see if that's consistent.
yeah, yeah.
Did
And
anybody?
also,
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, the difference between Superman Returns and Superman 25, as far as action goes, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Whereas
I'm
Superman
sorry.
Returns
Superman
was like
Returns has action.
the
He saves
the
the space plane, okay.
He saves the space
well
plane,
that yeah,
and that
that
guy
plane,
shoots the bullet smushed in the ear.
yeah, that was it. That was the
Yeah.
action of that movie. But this one is like, oh, he throws punches. Superman punches things, and there are like he's lifting buildings and kaiju's and all these things. So it's just yeah, night and day the difference between the two.
And obviously, like Cavill has a lot of action, and even Reeves has action in Superman's 2, 3, and 4. But it's all in how it's delivered. Like little things like, okay, this is an evacuation of Metropolis. Everybody, okay, there are no casualties. Okay, there are this. It's just like little things like that just make me feel better about
Yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah.
things that are happening. All the things. I had something and I forgot what it was. So I guess it wasn't that important. So whatever. Yeah. Yeah. But listen, my friends, I think it's been an hour and a half of us talking about Superman. I think
It
we
still
probably
go
talk
on.
about it more, but we could go on. But I do think that we need to see it again to go on a little bit more, to have a stronger
Mhm, mhm.
discourse about it at this point, because there are definitely things that I'm forgetting that I want to bring up, and I certainly can't. I want to leave it on this. Costumes were actually good.
Yes!
Yeah, they were good. I didn't love the suit when it was released or anything. It really worked for me in the film.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
I
mhm.
will say. Yeah. I mean everybody else's, even the Justice Gang suits were like kind of mediocre and whatever, but like when they're moving around and doing their thing, like whatever,
It
man.
worked.
Like it
It worked.
worked. And I had said this before, I've said it on air a few times. You got to see it in the context of the movie.
That's
Really,
right.
like it's not meant for still photo, it's not meant for this. It's meant to be seen. I knew I was going to say one thing about flying. I'm really glad they ditched that shot of his like head super far forward and the rest of his body really far back. He used
Mm,
Gunn used it in Guardians 3 with Adam Warlock, and I'm so glad that that shot was gone because it is weird.
mm.
Like the rest of the flying shots I really liked, but not that one. It was a
Yes.
the strange looking thing.
I do wish that there was a line, I don't know if maybe if it was cut out of why he wears the red trunks, because I've
Yeah.
heard David Cornsweet talk in interviews and say, "Yeah, I have like there's a reason why he wants to be seen, he wants to be friendly to kids, and he doesn't want to be scary looking." And I almost wish that there was something in the movie that said that because that says a lot about Superman. Like that's something that gives you background on his character and it sets up the world a little bit. And it's like, well, I know that because of interviews, but not everybody's going to watch all the interviews like I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I I don't know. I feel like if you explain everything, then your whole movie is just how do I say it? You're just rationalizing your entire point of
Yeah.
being, you know?
Well,
And
that
so
one in particular, because of the New 52 took the tights away, and then Man of Steel took them away, and then they came and they brought them back. Like I just felt like that specifically, the tights is the one that I would want somebody to say, "Look, this is why." Because the whole reason they took them away was like, "Oh, well, it's silly. You'd never wear your underwear on the outside of your pants," and it's like
what?
that you're missing the point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you are missing the point. I agree. People do miss the point a lot, just generally speaking. And that's in some ways the point of this movie. You're missing the point. Yeah. Why don't you stop and smell the roses for a hot minute and enjoy each other's company? Yeah.
That's right.
Good, good, good stuff.
You know, this movie left everyone in such a positive, like it was such a positive experience, such a positive force. About halfway through, three-quarters way through the movie, the stranger sitting next to me turned to me and offered me his popcorn that he wasn't going to finish, which has never
Dang.
happened to me before. And like germs concerns aside, it was just nice. It was just nice that he was like, "I'm going to offer this stranger my popcorn." And I was like, "That's just." I feel like that's because we're in a Superman movie, and I feel like that was just the spirit in the moment. Was just like, "I'm going to do something nice.
Yep.
I'm going to let's see if this guy wants it."
I totally agree. I chatted with the guy next to me, same thing, because I went by myself, and so he sat down, and I said, "Are you riding solo tonight?" He said, "No, I'm actually with this family right here, but man, I am so excited to see this movie. I love Superman. I've just been waiting so long." We had a really nice chat about it. It
Nice.
was
Nice.
it was
That's awesome.
great. Yeah, it was just top notch.
That makes me feel good.
To finish off, since Superman also was such a positive movie and we loved it, let's just go around, say one thing that we just really loved about it or about Superman, just to end on a real positive note. Would anybody like to go first?
I'll go.
All right.
Loved that Superman cared. That's the thing that I took away from this movie is that he cared, and I don't feel like I got that from Henry Cavill or even Brandon Routh. I just don't feel like they cared. And this one, it felt like, again, we talked about it from a squirrel to a kaiju and all anywhere in between. This Superman cares about people and cares about me. And so I care about him. Empathy, caring, being human is what I liked about this movie. I loved that compassion from the movie.
Great. Great. Frank.
Joy. Like it was a where I feel that David Goyer and Zack
Hold on.
Snyder.
Wait, we're going in the wrong direction, people. You got
No,
you
no, listen.
put something
I felt
down
it was a
in order
joyless
to
film,
say
and this
something
was a
nice
joy
about
film.
something else. Like that's
That
not
was a
like,
joyless film. This is a joy-filled film, and that's what I liked about
yeah, but that's again, we're putting something down
it.
to build something up. That was not the point of this exercise. Let's go again. We're starting again. Do it again. Factor. One thing about this movie that you liked without comparing it to anything else, just contained in itself. What did you love about it?
Caring, like the Care Bear stare. I love that Superman cares about other people, and every time he gets mad in this movie, it is because he cares about something. Where's the dog? Or the guy who got killed, like he screams, "People were going to die!" Like every time he raises his voice is because he cares. That's what I love about this movie.
Good. Okay. Frank?
I actually loved that he was like vulnerable. He was emotionally vulnerable and even physically vulnerable throughout it. But I thought that was a really gave it some stakes, and I really enjoyed that.
Going in a completely opposite direction, and I love that Perry and Jimmy basically know that Lois and Superman are a thing.
Yes,
Therefore, Lois just
about
like
3 months, I think.
And there's that
fantastic.
3 again. Man,
Three.
James Gunn
And we
loves
love
3s.
three. We love the three. I mean, three's has biblical context. To die. To die and rise. Love and finding land. Three is a very powerful number in terms of storytelling. So I would like to. I need to see it again, and I want to see like why'd you go with three? Does it just because it feels good, or are we tying something more intricately into the film? So, and also just positive masculinity, I think is like you talked about
Yes,
emotional vulnerability here. Like Superman is a positive masculine figure, and Lex is a un like or unpositive, negative masculine figure. How he treats the women in his life and
Toxic.
people around is so toxic. And I liked the unspoken comparison between the two.
Very much, very much. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are not fans of that positive masculinity take, and those people, it's not for them.
Sorry, Lex Luthor is not a good person. Like he's not. You'd be like, oh, the Joker mistreats Harley. I really don't like. Yes, because the Joker's
Yeah,
a
he's a
terrible
bad
person.
guy.
He's a bad guy. You shouldn't like. It's okay to like the stories that the character is in because they're a good bad guy, but that doesn't mean you should like them. You shouldn't emulate them. You can enjoy the stories that they provide. But yeah, it's a really weird push and pull there. But anyway, my friends, wonderful to see you all. Vactor, where can people find you isolated on your own when we're not doing this when you're not doing this month in Superman with us friendly fellows?
Yes. And as much as I hate to do it, I do things on the side without these two geeks. It is This Comic Cooks on YouTube. Everywhere else, I am Vactorverse. If you're on TikTok or X or actually, no, Blue Sky, I'm This Comic Cooks, but a lot of the other stuff, I'm Vactorverse. But either way, search for This Comic Cooks and you'll find me. That is where I put out the majority of my stuff is on YouTube.
Great. And Frank, where can people find you and myself?
You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com and wherever your podcasts are found, and YouTube and patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. And if you are in the Cleveland area or would like to be in the Cleveland area, you'll find me on Friday, July 11th at 7:10 p.m. hosting a special screening of the film with the House of L podcast, the Siegel and Schuster Society at the Capitol Theater in downtown Cleveland. And we will be
worth noting
where it was in Metropolis. We'll be in Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
In Cleveland. And yeah, we're going to host the screen. There are still some tickets available for the 7:10 screening at the Capitol Theater. So if you want to grab them, you can. Yeah, film screening and live podcast to follow with special guest Brian Michael Bendis. So should be a good time.
And what are you doing the next day after that?
Day after that, we'll be talking to Philip Kennedy Johnson at the Cleveland Public Library, also in conjunction with the Siegel and Schuster Society. That is at the main library in Cleveland. So there you go.
Very cool. See, for people who are unaware, Siegel and Schuster are the creators of Superman.
Yes.
Back in the 30s.
And they are also from Cleveland.
And they're also from Cleveland, where they shot this movie, which was a great stand-in for Metropolis, like top notch. Loved it.
Yes, great.
All right, my friends, we did it. And so, until next time, cheers.
Cheers.